Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of our ongoing editorial webinar series, Coffee Talk. Each hour-long information-packed episode organized by the hardworking folks at Redmond Channel Partner features the observations and insights of an independent expert on a wide range of tech industry topics. And many thanks to our underwriting sponsor for this episode, OpenText Cybersecurity, formerly known as AppRiver, helping organizations of all sizes protect their most valuable and sensitive information with products, services, and training. Without their support, this series would not be possible. And thanks to you for joining us. I'm John K. Waters, Editor-in-Chief of the Converge 360 Group of 1105 Media, and I'll be your moderator. Today's topic is the 10 biggest changes facing Microsoft partners in 2024. And our lead presenter is technologist, creator of compelling content, and senior resultant, Howard M. Cohen. But before we get started, just a bit of housekeeping. We'll let you know that this episode is being recorded for later access. Keep an eye out for an email with a link to that recording. It'll be coming your way in the next few days. We'll make some time during the talk for questions. Please feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box at any time. We'll do our best to get to all of them. Our sponsors provided some extra resources you won't want to miss. They're available now on your console. And as a small thank you to the first 200 attendees who stick with us to the end, we will be sending you a $5 certificate to Starbucks. It's a cup of joe to go with the info. Now let's meet our first speaker. Howard M. Cohen has been in the IT industry for more than 4 decades. During that time, he has held senior executive positions in many of the top channel partner organizations, and he currently writes for and about IT and the IT channel. He's a sought-after speaker, an insightful observer of the technology landscape, and one of our very favorite presenters. You're in for a great session. Take it away, Howard.
Thank you very much, John, and hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session. Want to shout out to some of our frequent flyers who are out there in the audience today. And I'd like you all to start humming the theme from Star Wars, that part with a horn, and we're going to begin a long time ago. Well, not in a galaxy far, far away, rather in an Inspire far, far away. Actually, it was so long ago that it was still called the Microsoft Worldwide Partner Conference back when this took place. So the story I'm going to tell you is going to bring us into, well, again, here another change. Usually I start with a word of the day. No, not today. Today we're going to have a phrase of the day. You get two for the price of one. And to get into the story about this long ago Worldwide Partner Conference, customarily at every Inspire conference now, the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners, the IAMCP, names its new president for the next year. And this session was no different than any other. We appointed our new president, and he accepted the new position. And immediately he was called into a meeting with the gentleman who was then the channel chief, the global channel chief for Microsoft. 90 minutes later, the meeting ended, and he promptly resigned. That's right. He actually quit. He said, I'm not going to do that again. That's just not something I can handle. And so he handed it off to the vice president who took over, and we went on from there. But after that incident, he shared some advice with us that I thought it would be a good idea to share with you. And that is that when it comes to your interaction with Microsoft, it's very important to be patriotically adversarial. I love this phrase. This has stuck with me for a long, long time. Patriotically adversarial. That is to say, we love Microsoft. Microsoft is a big, big part of all of our businesses. And so we're very patriotic when it comes to Microsoft. They're the flag we fly. On the other hand, Microsoft often does things in a way that's not exactly beneficial to partners. They think it's going to be, or maybe they don't, but it's not. It's just not beneficial to partners. And so what do? Well, a lot of people just grumble and complain. But some partners, especially those who participate in organizations like the IAMCP, well, they get up in Microsoft's face and say, hey, listen, guys, we've got to make some changes here. This is not going to work for us. Well, And at that particular Worldwide Partner Conference, that was very much the case. And so my advice to everybody who's attending our session today is when you think about your relationship with Microsoft, feel free to be patriotically adversarial with them. Okay, so that said, I promised you the 10 biggest changes facing Microsoft partners in 2024. So let's start off with number 1. And for some of you, this may already be the case. It may not represent a change. But going back to that idea about being patriotically adversarial, you need to set a primary goal for yourself. And if you haven't yet, then this is the first change you ought to embrace as we head into 2024. And that is to focus yourself on getting the most out of your Microsoft relationship, getting the most out of your partnership with Microsoft. Now, I'm here to tell you that that advice doesn't really originally come from me. Actually, I have received that advice from literally everybody I've ever worked with at Microsoft, starting with John Shirley in 1981 when I sold my first Microsoft product. He and Bill Gates were running the company at that time, and they both advised me, whatever you do, work on getting the most out of your relationship with us. Because if you're doing that, we know that we're going to get what we want out of you as well. It'll be a great quid pro quo. And I have to tell you, it has remained true for 40 some odd years. So with that, I'll take you to the other side of that conversation that our 90-minute president had. He had it with the global channel chief of Microsoft at that time, who shall remain nameless at this point. But I also had some conversations with this gentleman. And in one of those conversations, which was actually an interview, he said something to me that I've never forgotten that I think defines the relationship Microsoft wants us to have with them. And that is, he said to me that Microsoft really only has one job. And that one job is to provide the best possible platform for partners to run their solutions on. The best platform for partners to run their solutions on. Now, that presupposes that partners have solutions. Okay, and at that time, if you asked anybody what their solution was, they probably said something that resembled infrastructure. And so it was a difficult challenge back then. Today, of course, it's very different. Today, the question you really need to ask yourself is, what is your solution, or what are your solutions? Because just about every partner has them now. And so Microsoft wants to be the platform that your solutions run on. So why is that important? Now, I'll tell you why it's important to you. We all sell Microsoft licensing, right? So let's say you sell Microsoft licensing, and in this case, you just sold $1 worth of Microsoft licensing. It's like 15 seconds of Microsoft 365 or something like that. $1 worth of Microsoft licensing. If your solution involves services that you perform, you can expect to see $7.63 more revenue from those services for every dollar of Microsoft licensing you sell. More than 7.5 times as much revenue from your services as from that dollar of Microsoft licensing. So it behooves you to really think about, what is your solution and how are you selling it? And are you selling it as successfully as you can? Now, of course, not all of you provide a specific service like installation, integration, implementation, configuration, or other Asians, whatever. That's not what you do. You actually develop software that runs in a Microsoft environment. Well, if that's the case, you can expect to see $10.11 of revenue for every dollar of Microsoft licensing you sell. $10.11 for every buck. 10 to 1. 10 to 1. So it really is important for you to think about what you're getting out of your Microsoft relationship and to take every dollar of Microsoft licensing and make sure you're turning it into 7.5 or 10 times as much from your services. Okay, so that brings us now to the second of the big changes that are facing us this year in 2024. And for this one, I'm going to talk to you about some stuff that's going on in the news. I'm going to show you two headlines. The first one is actually from less than a week ago. And less than a week ago, Microsoft topped Apple as the world's most valuable public company. Microsoft's market capitalization is higher than Apple's as of January 12th, and today's the 18th. It's only 6 days. So brand new news, hot off the presses, Microsoft is the world's most valuable company. Fantastic. And we're all partners with them, so that's going to be great. Here's the other headline. This is actually from the summertime, that Microsoft was confirming more job cuts on top of the 10,000 they had back last January, a year ago in this time. It is estimated, although I haven't seen firm numbers yet, but it's been estimated that globally, Microsoft has cut 50,000 employees in the past year. 50,000 employees. Now, if you estimate that there's about 250,000 Microsoft employees, or 250,000 people in the Microsoft nation, that's 20 some odd percent that were cut. That's huge. But what troubles me is, why is it the world's most valuable company has to cut people? Now, it may be that they became the world's most valuable company in part because they did cut payroll, but they saw themselves as being able to. Why is that? And I have to tell you, I don't have an answer for that question. But I submit to you that it's a question you need to be thinking about. And the reason why you need to be thinking about it actually brings us to biggest change number 3. And here's biggest change number 3. If 50,000 people have been cut from the Microsoft payroll, or somewhere near that, that means there's fewer people out there, fewer Microsoft people. There are fewer Microsoft people in a variety of different roles, each of which is very important to you as a partner. And let's just take a look at each one of them. Partner management. Partner management. So I remember a time not that long ago that I was talking to the global channel chief of Microsoft at that time, and I told her, she asked me, what is your biggest challenge with Microsoft? What can we be doing for you that we're not doing for you? And she was want to ask that very often. And this time I said to her, I said, well, I got to be honest with you. My biggest problem is I'm lonely. I don't have anybody from Microsoft that is assigned to talk to me, for me to work with directly. I don't have an assigned person. Well, very shortly thereafter that, she introduced a new program in which she introduced us to the Partner Account Managers, PAMs. Very exciting. Partner Account Managers were assigned to the better partners, the managed partners, if you will, and worked with us very directly. And it was great. We had a main line into all the resources at Microsoft. They even ran something, my Pam told me that she had the chance to go to Pam Camp. Now, I thought that was where they teach you how to do nonstick cooking, but she said, no, that's how we are taught to do a better job of working with partners. So, okay, that was great. Well, that program has continued for all these years since, in different incarnations with different names, different titles, what have you. But now, part of that 50,000 were definitely going to be these people, partner account managers. So it's going to be harder to get one. More people are going to have to talk to phone support. And that's going to make things a little tougher. And while we're on the subject of phone support, inside sales has probably been pretty seriously cut as well. So if you're trying to reach somebody on the phone to help you, that's going to take longer. You're going to be waiting longer. And therefore, your customer is going to be waiting for you longer. And so you've got to be thinking about what is your strategy to compensate for the lack of these people. Another kind of person that you definitely turn to frequently is technical support. When you encounter a problem that's just too sophisticated, too complex, too deep into design for you to handle it yourself, you turn to tech support. And there too, there's going to be fewer people. So you've got to be working this year on your strategy for compensating for those lack of those people. And there are many opportunities available to you. There are many resources out there that are vying to be the substitute for those resources. And I encourage you to start looking for them, because some of them are fantastic. Some of them are not. So be very demanding, be very, very picky in choosing where you get your supplemental support from. Now, of course, you notice that I didn't hit all four yet, but the fourth of these four dots brings us to the fourth biggest change facing Microsoft partners in 2024. And that one has to do with people, but it really has to do more with money. Money, a subject that's near and dear to everybody's heart. In this case, I'm talking about cash flow. There are many, many programs in which Microsoft will pay for you to perform services for your customer. So you perform the services, they give you a voucher for that. You submit a claim to Microsoft, and Microsoft pays you. Now, that program support wherein Microsoft pays you requires people to confirm that you actually did deliver the support. And with those 50,000 or so people being cut, there are fewer people in program support. And what does that mean? That means that your claims are going to take longer to get paid. Now, that may not sound so terribly bad. However, I come from a period of time where some of my colleagues, some of the other partners that I knew in the ecosystem back then, some of them actually went out of business waiting for claims to be paid. It's a horror show, right? I mean, you can't even imagine it. But why do I tell this to you? I tell this to you to encourage you to be very careful not to put all your eggs in that one basket. That is, don't become dependent upon Microsoft programs to pay everything you need to make you a nut and to go get into the black every month. You need to be pursuing customers directly who will pay you directly and not involve programs of any kind. So watch your cash flow. Don't become dependent upon programs, and do everything you can to stay in there fighting to get your claims paid faster. There are fewer people out there. It's going to have to get slower. So be careful out there. Okay. Biggest change number 5. And very simply, I was just talking about some of these incentive programs. Change number 5 is going to happen over and over and over again in 2024, just as it did in 2023, 2022, 1999, 1988. It is basically the complex, unclear, moving targets that are Microsoft incentive programs. They've always been this way. I used to joke with people that it's easier to get an advanced degree in rocket science than it is to learn to handle Microsoft licensing and Microsoft's incentive programs. And the complexity just continues to grow. Actually, just yesterday, one of my friends sent me the latest, greatest, hot off the presses program at a glance sheet for the newest Microsoft incentive program. And I elected not to insert it into this slideshow because the type is so small and it's so densely packed with type that it's an eye chart. It's just, you wouldn't be able to read it. I don't know how they think people will. You need a magnifying glass even to read it in front of you on paper. So this is just the way it's always been. At a glance is a joke. You're not going to learn anything at a glance. You're going to learn something after you sit there very carefully getting eye strain reading it. Um, it's just part of the reality. It's just part of the program. And I know a lot of partners who employ people just to do that. So that is going to continue changing on and on and on throughout the year, and you need to be prepared for it. Biggest change, number 6. Okay, here we get into the fun stuff. If you've been at some of my presentations in the past, you've heard me talk about Microsoft's big bet, the big bet. And I believe it was Steve Ballmer who coined the term. But the big bet is the initiative that Microsoft is most concerned about. At one point, it was it was Link, which was 3 or 4 iterations ago, the name for what is now Teams. The Link communication system was the big bet. Microsoft wanted everybody to get behind Link and sell Link. SharePoint was a huge big bet. And everybody at Microsoft was pushing all of their partners to get out there and sell SharePoint and configure SharePoint and apply and deploy SharePoint. And that was big. Azure started out as a big bet. Perhaps the biggest bet of all up until now has been cloud. Cloud computing in and of itself. You know, Ballmer went around screaming, "We're all into the cloud." And yesterday I saw a new poster that said AI for all. And I'm expecting somebody to say, let's be all in for AI for all. It's a big bet. Well, obviously the current big bet is called Copilot. And it is the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other cognitive services that Microsoft has brought to market. This is changing in 2024. It's changing because it's just getting bigger and bigger and more complex. And so you need to keep up with it. And the fact is that saying Copilot is kind of not enough. It's really Copilots. There are many Copilots. There's 365 Copilot, Copilot Pro, Copilot in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Copilot for Service, Copilot for Teams and 365 Chat, Microsoft Security Copilot, Copilot Studio, Copilot in Azure Quantum. We'll get back to that one. I actually left one out, and that is Copilot in the Power Platform, which very shortly you'll be able to read a little more about in Application Trends Development, Application Development Trends Magazine. Sorry, John. John is editor-in-chief of Application Trends Development Magazine. I get so excited when I talk about it. I have a column in there called The Citizen Developer. And this month we'll be talking about how Copilot in the Power Platform will help your citizen developers be even faster and more capable of developing the kinds of applications you really want and need. So there are all these Copilots. And let me tell you, for those of you who are thinking, oh my God, how am I going to learn all this? I will tell you that if you try, you will fail. There is way too much here to learn. The fact is, you need to start thinking about which of these you want to specialize in. Now, of course, some of you may be noticing that there is a Copilot that is so obviously missing, that there is a Microsoft application actually among the first Microsoft applications. It's been around forever, and I can't believe that they haven't announced a Copilot for it. And that, of course, is Flight Simulator. How can you have a flight simulator without a Copilot? Okay, here's the funny part. There was one. Back in 1984, there was a Copilot for Flight Simulator. So even the name Copilot isn't brand new. what's old is new again. So we've had co-pilots before, and we're going to have co-pilots for some long time to come. The thing is, remember we talked before about how for every dollar of Microsoft licensing, you make 7.5 of services, 10 to 1 for software? Well, what this tells you, and what you should be taking away from that, is that your job is to identify and develop practical applications for some of the co-pilots. Look at your customers. Where could you apply co-pilot technology to improve their lives? Because everything begins and really everything ends with application. If you're not running an application, this big question why you have computing at all. It's all about the application. So this year, you're going to be hunting for practical applications for the co-pilots. Now, at the end of the list there, I mentioned Copilot for Azure Quantum. And so I thought I'd give you a sneak peek at Microsoft's quantum computer. This is the Microsoft quantum computer. I think it looks like something out of Doctor Who, but that's me. To illustrate where we are with the quantum computer, I thought I'd show you a big, long quote. This one is from Dr. Peter Krogstrup, who is the scientific director of Microsoft's Quantum Materials Lab in Denmark. And Dr. Krogstrup tells us that Microsoft has taken this very risky but high reward approach in trying to make a qubit, which on the theory side looks like the very best qubit you can get. Okay, 2 questions. What's a qubit? And even more to the point, what makes a qubit a good qubit or the best qubit you can get? What is he talking about? And I have to share with you, I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. He goes on to say the challenge is that nobody has really seen these Majorana zero modes in real life. Okay, what's a Majorana zero mode? I don't know, but I will tell you, I'm going to find out. He claims that they have done that and that that's super exciting and that they have to continue to evolve their engineering capabilities, but it really looks like there's a path towards scalable quantum computing now. Very exciting, I think. I know that we saw recent announcements from IBM and others that they're making progress with quantum computer. For me, quantum computer is the first time in a long time that technology has come out that I know really nothing about and that confuses me completely. And I think that's great. That is a challenge. That is something I can sink my teeth into. And I suspect that a whole bunch of you are thinking the exact same thing. So there it is. Quantum computing is coming. And really, we now know for the first time that after we're done with AI and Copilot being the big bet, and that's going to take a couple of years, we know that this is what's coming as the next big bet. So we're kind of peering into the future a little bit. Very exciting. And this brings us to challenge number 8, which is very simply the sheer pace of change. As I speak to many partners and many other friends and colleagues and ask them what are the biggest challenges, the first thing that comes out of anybody's mouth seems to always be the pace of change. It's coming faster now than it ever has before. There's more coming at us, and it's incredible. We've all seen the recent change from competencies to designations, and we've all invested a whole heck of a lot of money, time, effort, people into getting those competencies. Now we have to reshift all that and move toward designations. And that's a big change for us to handle. Also, we have the partner capability scorecard to worry about. Now, I have to tell you that also is not new. There have been something like a partner scorecard for as far back as I can remember. And they always change. They're always different. We find ourselves twisting in all kinds of directions to keep up with them. And in 2024, you're going to see that just happen faster and faster. I'll just mention the new commerce experience, and I won't go into any depth, but you can bet it's already changed a few times. And so soon it will become the old commerce experience. We'll have a new commerce experience, or we'll call it something else. So there's that to worry about. And then, of course, underneath it all, there's new technologies. I mean, we just talked about quantum, and we're still at the leading edge of Copilot. We've barely gotten out of the cloud era. I mean, it's happening faster and faster, and we've got to be prepared for it. That's what's going to make us different. That's what's going to make us better than the competition. The other thing that's changed is the sheer level of complexity. I've mentioned it a couple of times during the presentation. And again, the qualifications for the designation, for all six designations, are all much more complicated than they ever were before. That partner capability scorecard is more complicated than any scorecard I've seen before. The incentive programs, we talked earlier about how you have to have an advanced degree to understand them. And they're more complex than ever before. And yeah, the new technologies are incredibly complex. What the heck is a Majorana zero mode? Okay, so we have to deal with that. Finally, we get to change number 10. And this is a change that I'm going to ask of all of you. You've heard it a million times that you can't and you don't want to be all things to all people. And I've learned that to be true in the hardest ways possible over the years. But if anything else, I ask you to make this the year. No, that you don't drink blood. No, this is the year that you focus. Look into my eyes. This becomes the year that you focus. Decide what it is you really want to be great at, what you want to be known for, what you want to be the go-to partner for. Because that is the only way you're going to be able to afford to build the kind of business you want to build. Trying to tool up and train up for all that Microsoft is throwing at us, it's just too much. Unless you're a mammoth-sized company like they are, you're not going to be able to hire enough people to cover all that ground. The co-pilots alone, there was like 24 co-pilots. You're not going to master all of them. Pick the ones that you want to be best at because they make the most sense for your customer base. Now, if we've learned anything from the emphasis that Microsoft has always placed on partner to partner, it's that if you're going to be great at one thing, your customers are still going to need many things in the solutions they seek from you. So in addition to focusing on the one thing you do extraordinarily well, you need to get out there and identify partners who can do the other things as well as you do your thing. This way, the group of you, all working together, all partnering together, can bring that bigger, better, bolder solution that your customers so desperately want and need. And when you do that, when you go out there and you have this heart-to-heart with the right partners to bring this bigger, better, converged solution, you create what I've always called the win-win, win-win. That is, you win because you've been able to bring the solution to your customer. Your partners all win because they've each brought part of that solution to the customer, and they're each getting paid for that. The customer wins because they get this bigger, better, more complete solution that does exactly what they want to do, and they can extract tremendous value from it. And then, of course, finally, Microsoft wins, which still needs to be important to you because when Microsoft wins and they know that you caused it, they shower love upon you. And that love comes in all the most meaningful ways. Now, to make all of that happen, there's a lot of things you need to know how to do. This has been a strategic overview of what you can see coming in changes for 2024. My good friend John is next going to introduce you to some folks who can help you with the tactical issues you need to face and you need to execute on to be able to be truly successful doing all of this. So good luck out there. Have a great 2024. And John, I know we have no questions for me, so let's take it away.
We have some questions. Thank you, Howard. That was an awesome session, of course. And as a matter of fact, it was so packed with info that we know you guys can use. We're going to forward your questions to Howard directly so we can respond by email.
Great.